My name is Aaron Jenkins. I'm 61 years old. I was diagnosed with complete kidney failure on my 50th birthday. I ended up in Harvard General. Before that, I was working every day. I was cooking at a boarding care for 32 people. And I got weaker and weaker. I thought I had the flu. And I treated the flu, but it wouldn't go away. It just kept getting worse and worse. And I was working every day. I was working 7 days a week. And that Sunday, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and when I woke up, I couldn't get out of bed. And I'm never late, so the boss came by because they knew I had been sick. I've been throwing up every day. I was still cooking every day, but I was throwing up 2-3 times a day. I even drank water. I threw that up. And so they finally took me to the hospital, and I spent 3 months in the hospital. When I went in the hospital, my blood pressure was 245 over 145, and the doctor said they don't even know how I walked in there. But I thought, like I said, I thought I had the flu, so I thought I'd get a shot and go back to work. And they told me, no, I had to go in the hospital. And the next thing I know, they had me in isolation. They took me upstairs, and I stayed in Harvard General for 3 months. At the end of 3 months, being treated for complete kidney failure, and I lost over 100 pounds. I wouldn't eat anything. All I would drink was lemonade. I wouldn't eat any solid food. So within 3 months, I lost almost 150 pounds. And they finally told me they couldn't do anything else for me in the hospital. I had to go on dialysis. And so I got in a dispute with Harvard General, and they put me out of Harvard General. And so I knew I had to have another doctor. There was a lady that moved in downstairs from me that I saw the dialysis bus come pick her up 3 times a week. So I went and asked her about dialysis, and she had been on 27 years. She was one of the first ones, and she had the same doctor here in LA. So I said, I want to meet your doctor. So I rode in one day with her and met Dr. Spear, and I became a client of his. And I'd go to his office once a week and get an EPO shot. And he told me eventually I was going to have to go on dialysis, but he figured I could make it 2 years. And I made it just 2 years and 2 months. And then I started on dialysis. Okay, eventually, like I said, I'd go get the EPO shots once a week. But I had shortness of breath, my ankles were swelling, and I couldn't walk but maybe 25 yards, and I'd just do any little thing, and I'd short of breath. I couldn't hardly breathe. Like I said, I was on dialysis for 3 years. I heard of Dr. Tong on a radio show. A buddy of mine called me and told me, and I listened to it on a radio show. And then I live in LA, in West LA, so I tried to get somebody to drive me out here. I don't drive anymore. And I got my next door neighbor to drive out here a couple of times, and then it was just too far. She didn't want to go, so I just said to hell with it, and I figured out how to go on the bus, and I caught the bus. So now I take the bus from West LA and come out here. 2 buses, a train, and 2 Orange County buses. When I first came out to Dr. Tong, after the first treatment, he done my acupuncture, and he asked me when I finished, how did I feel? And I said, well, I really don't feel anything. It's too quick. But I did notice the light was real bright, because before everything was dark. I could barely see, but everything was brighter, just like you put a 200-watt light bulb. And I got it till I could make it around the block in front of my house. First, I'd make it around 1 time, and I'd stop and rest, and eventually I'd make it 3, sometimes 4 times around the block. I could walk to McDonald's and get my breakfast and walk right back, which I couldn't do before. And my shortness of breath went away. And a lot of my neighbors noticed, because I didn't notice, but they said I had a little stride in my step and I walked a lot faster. And when I first moved in, because I was so sick, my eyes was bloodshot and red, and most of the people that live in my building thought I was a drunk, which I don't drink at all. But I had much more energy. I could walk much further. Sometimes I could make it from La Brea to La Cienega, make that circle, make a round without stopping, which I couldn't do before. and I had got down to about 160. So I've gained about 20, 30 more pounds since then, and because I weighed over 300 before I got sick. Now I'm right at about 200 now. My initial blood pressure when I got sick and ended up in the hospital was 145, 245 over 145, and the doctors say they don't even know how I walked in there. Initially, after I got out of the hospital, I was taking 9 high blood pressure pills and a patch, and Dr. Spira changed me over to just Norvasc. Initially, I was taking 30 milligrams of Norvasc a day, and then eventually, after Tong treated me, I dropped it down to 20. Then I dropped it down to 10, and at one point, he told me he was going to lower my blood pressure, which I didn't believe it because no doctor had ever done that before. And he told me to stop taking my blood pressure medicine, which I didn't pay any attention to at all. So the next day after he treated me, on the dialysis machine, my blood pressure dropped down to like 60, and I passed out, and they had to bring me back, this, that, and the other. And so after that, I stopped taking all my blood pressure medicine for about 3 months. Then my pressure started to gradually creep back up again, so I started on 5 milligrams of Norvasc, and now I take 10 milligrams of Norvasc. Now my blood pressure is 120 over 70, and it's holding pretty constant now. Initially, I was run on the dialysis machine 4 hours, and they were going to even increase it more, but I've always worked standing up, and the hardest thing on the dialysis for me was to lay there for 4 hours. It just drove me crazy. So once Dr. Tong started treating me for my kidneys, I was able to drop it 15 minutes and then another 15 minutes. So I did get down to 3.5 hours, and eventually my doctors, they jumped all over me, and because they don't get paid unless your dialysis is at a certain level. So I finally got back to 3 hours and 45 minutes, which is I'm currently 3 hours and 45 minutes, and which I can live with that, which I know it doesn't sound like much, but even 15, 20 minutes more is just sheer torture. I can't deal with it. But I run 3 3/4 hours now. Since then, I started going to jazz concerts once, sometime twice a week. And in particular, one week was a concert in the Jazz Bakery in Culver City, and it ran late, so I missed the last Culver City bus, which I normally catch. And it was raining that night, and so I live about 2 or 3 miles from there. So I had no choice. I had to walk home in the rain. And I made it. I was tired as hell, but I'd never walked that far, but I made it, and I made it home, and I got a little wet, but I didn't catch a cold or anything, which I thought it would really do me in. Okay, the treatments since I've been coming here, I have much more energy. I don't have problems with shortness of breath. I can walk probably 10 times further than I could before. I go to concerts every Friday, jazz concerts every Friday, and sometimes I go 2 or 3 times a month on a Sunday. And I get out more, I just do more, whereas before I wasn't doing anything. I just stayed in the house and listen to the radio because I don't watch TV. But I go wherever I want to go now, all over LA County, occasionally even Orange County.